Hi, Lori Ruffin here, the founder of the COO team. Today, I am so excited to be with you and with Crystal Speed.
Hi, I'm Crystal Speed, the HR strategist with the COO team.
And today, we just really want to talk about kind of a sensitive subject. Okay, before we dig into it, I just want to say, have you ever experienced the time or a time like this where you were working within a corporate environment or a business environment? It was time for performance reviews, and you kind of had that feeling of, I don't know what is going to be said to me. Or if you have been the leader and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to deliver this feedback. I need to provide some constructive criticism, and I'm not quite sure how this is going to go over with my employee. If you've ever had that twinge, it can be so unnerving. And so I'm really glad to discuss this with you today, Crystal. How do we demystify this idea of performance appraisals, performance reviews, and feedback, because we know that in order for us to have continuous improvement, we've got to have a way to be able to offer affirmations as well as constructive feedback. So,
Mhm.
guide us.
Well, sure. And so, Lori, it's interesting because yes, so many leaders and team members dread the performance appraisal process, and don't want to hurt feelings, um, or just like the act of doing it is just dreadful for many people. And so, let me start by saying, well, one, it shouldn't be, but it really just requires a perspective shift, right? So, performance appraisals, if you're giving constructive feedback or even praise, and this is the first time all year that your people have heard this from you, that's probably the first problem. So when I work with leaders about performance management, we think about it as a process and not just the appraisal period, but throughout the year, how are we engaging in conversations with our people that really support them in continuous development and goal attainment? So with the performance management process, typically I recommend, like looking at it in a quarterly basis where you have quarterly check-ins with your people. So if there are, some opportunities for development or areas where individuals are doing great work, we're able to bring that to the forefront sooner than just, one time a year performance appraisal period. And so you're doing quarterly check-ins. You're talking about goals and how individual tasks are supporting team objectives as well as the strategic direction of the organization overall. And then whatever period of time is identified as the annual performance appraisal period, then it's really just putting a bow on the year. There aren't many surprises unless something happened in that last quarter, but there aren't many surprises that will occur. And oftentimes, this helps both individual contributors, so our team members, as well as our leaders, knowing that we're in conversation throughout the year and it's not just this one time a year where I'm dumping everything on you. Also, I would encourage, continuous feedback even outside the quarterly process. So as soon as you do realize, like, hey, this is something that is out of alignment, we need to talk, having that conversation and documenting that you've had that conversation and determining how best we can work together to address it. And the same thing with something that individuals are doing that it's incredible. Having that conversation as soon as possible to recognize that and say, you know what, how do we continue to help you grow and help you be your best in our organization? So those are my tidbits. Don't wait, don't do it just once a year. That's when it's dreadful. But if you've had conversations throughout the year, it's just another opportunity for you to connect with your people.
That's awesome. That's a really, you just dropped a lot of great nuggets that we can use. Just want to ask a quick question. If we don't do that, like what do we stand to lose if we don't have any sort of process around giving that feedback or that affirmation? Like what are some of the, quick outcomes?
Well, one, people crave feedback. Even if they
Mhm.
don't tell you, they really crave feedback. They want to know, how am I doing? They also want to know, how is what I'm doing impacting like the success of the organization and the success of my team.
Mhm.
So without that consistent feedback, then individuals will either, become disengaged and find other things to do with their time and energy, and maybe even kind of retire or go to somewhere else in place, so they're not giving you their full attention. Also, performance may be impacted negatively if I'm not getting that feedback. I might think that everything is going well when I am consistently not meeting the mark. But if no one's telling me, then I don't really know that. Like I can't, some people need to be told very explicitly. And I think everybody deserves that opportunity. Also, the impact of not doing this is you just almost re-emphasize the fact that there isn't an accountability, there isn't ownership, and there isn't empowerment. And so again, people just become disengaged, or like, my work really doesn't matter, let me just go ahead and get this paycheck, versus being invested and involved.
Yeah, definitely. That's really important for us to remember. Thanks so much for speaking to that. This is one of the many, many, many strategic people elements that an organization needs to think about. And so thankfully, we have a checklist that addresses the other elements that no organization should skip. So if you would be interested in finding out, aside from performance appraisal review processes, what are the other things that you want to make sure you have in place to attract, keep, and grow your team for impact, feel free to click the link that we will provide, and you can download your own checklist, and you can make sure that you and your team have accounted for all of the elements that are required and necessary to have a robust, high achieving team. Thanks. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you too. Take care.